Welcome to a very special Chamber on Tap, an in-studio edition. I'm here with my guest, Brandon Moore from Black Dog Republic. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. It's a big deal when you get to come into the studio.
Absolutely. It must be.
So why don't we start with the company itself. So Black Dog Republic. I looked it up on Google Earth and could not find where the Republic of Black Dog is. Why don't you tell us where that name came from and what you do?
For sure. Well, first of all, we do exist. We are downtown in office space in the Delta Bessborough Hotel. But Black Dog Republic is a real estate brokerage. So one way to explain it is we do a lot of what a multinational brokerage would do, and then some. So our origins are as a full-service marketing firm specifically for builders and developers.
Okay.
But we do help out the resale market as well. Actually, we're launching heavily into the resale market. So that's when you and I would sell our homes.
Interesting.
So the name, I know it's fairly random, but that's very deliberate. In marketing, differentiation is everything. And we knew we were going to pay a bit of a price by naming it something so obscure as Black Dog Republic. But the idea is, a brand's meaning gets imbued over time. And even though we're sort of in the what the heck is that phase right now, when we do, get into that, we understand what Black Dog Republic is. It's a local brokerage within our community. Yep. We'll be very differentiated relative to a lot of the multinationals. Many people don't know there's dozens of brokerages here in Saskatoon, and most people can't differentiate one from the other.
So, lots of real estate agents you see, just keeping on the name topic, use their own name. Obviously, you went completely the opposite way. What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one day I hope that we can sell the company, or else I'll hand it off to my kids, whatever it may be. But I didn't want the company to be limited by my name, so, Brandon Moore Real Estate. I wanted it to grow and take on a life of its own so that, as it matured, it would operate and generate revenue and grow without me. Yeah. So that was a big part of that. Another way I can explain the name, it does have meaning. Okay. So dogs are loyal. They're loyal servants, and a republic empowers people. So when we operate and do business, we want to empower not just our customers, but the communities that we do business in.
That's interesting. Well, and speaking of community, so you started the business in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. You're a U of S grad, right? What did you take at the U of S?
I was a marketing major from the Edwards School of Business. So
you came out of the U of S, guns a-blazing, I'm sure, thinking you're going to make incredible money and make such an impact on any business you work in. Yeah. What was your first gig out of university? Was it like the glamorous idea you thought it was going to be?
I can put it this way. I had these ideas when I was up late studying for my exams, and those ideas didn't come into fruition, but I'll explain. It ended up being a blessing, but I was lucky out of college. I did land a job within my field. My title was brand manager, and those jobs are very hard to find within the Saskatoon region.
Especially straight out of university.
Yes, exactly. So basically, I was working with a company called Infraready Products, which is a great company. It's run by Mark Picard. Okay. They have over 200 products, and they distribute to 5 continents around the world. So I was pretty amped up about this job, but little did I know, on my first day, the CEO came and dropped a bag of cat litter on my desk. And
well, what were some of the products? What would have been the golden product?
Well, a lot of it was business to business.
Okay.
Man, I grew up in Red River cereal. A lot of the ingredients are produced there. Goldfish,
goldfish, of course.
All of that sort of thing. So a lot of big brands use the products.
Interesting.
Made in the manufacturing facility.
So you had high hopes.
Yeah, and this cat litter was an obscure product. It was made from a variety of waxy hulless barley that actually clumped when it got wet. So after the CEO dropped that on my desk, I just remember being very deflated. I don't know if he was able to read it, but I remember going home to my wife and just just telling her like I'm the cat litter guy. So my wife is a very wise woman. She sort of talked me out of my funk, and we basically sort of collectively agreed that if I was going to be the cat litter guy, I was going to own the stink out of the product. Pardon the pun. Yeah. And so I owned it and ran with it, and it ended up being a blessing, as I said. So what I realized was the product was managed by a number of people before me, and I tried banging on some doors and was just not getting very warm responses. The doors were already closed. So I cooked up a big idea, and that's sort of typical of my personality, that we would circumvent all of the mom and pop, sort of the traditional hierarchy of distribution that everyone moves through. We would circumvent it all and go straight to big box retail. Okay. So I became a student of big box grocery retail, and I learned all kinds of stuff, from how SKUs work to packaging sizes, general branding requirements. But one of the biggest wins that we had was actually in the pallet configuration. And that helped advance the product a lot. So cat litter is I know way too much about cat litter. Cat litter is a very dense, heavy product with a very low price point. So the cost to distribute cat litter to Western Canada or Eastern Canada is very high, and it erodes your margins a lot. So we actually worked with, many people might not know this, but there's such things as engineers that specialize in boxes and pallet configurations. So we worked with them to increase the amount of cat litter we could put on a pallet.
You thought being the king of kitty litter was bad. Imagine being the king of, I pack really well.
Yes, exactly. So we worked hard at figuring out how to get more product on one pallet to reduce its per unit cost. And what we did was basically completely ignore the engineering specs, created our own configuration, really slammed it around a bit with a forklift and called it good. But long story short, we made some really bold moves, and within close to 2 years, the product was picked up by a number of big box retail outlets and being distributed from West to East Coast Canada, and that opened up a lot of doors. That's why I say the cat litter was a blessing.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, being so young, coming right out of university, your first big gig. Do you look back now, and probably as the further we get into your story, do you look back and go, man, there's this advantage in being naive sometimes, because you really don't know what you don't know. Like, so you'll just chase after something.
Yes, absolutely. And I still try to apply that to my business today. I don't believe any job, I'm too big for any job. Naturally, there's delegation and systems need to be put in place as the company matures. But the reality was, that cat litter could have been something cool, like, what's cool? Eye watches or something like that. And my street cred would have been way up here. But the reality is, I would have garnered very similar experience from trying to distribute an iWatch relative to cat litter. So
I mean, especially in such a unique product like that, what did you learn about marketing? Is it true that certain products are always going to do better in certain markets, and why did they do better? Like, what did you learn from that?
Absolutely. So I've done a bit of traveling now. I wasn't that well traveled then, but I found some markets that really took to the cat litter. So it was unique in a number of ways. I told you it was clumpable, but it was also flushable and biodegradable.
Also, like high density areas would really like that then.
Yes, exactly. So high density sort of condo dwellers, apartment dwellers that didn't want to lug cat litter around could actually flush it down the toilet and be done with it. Yeah.
So was that a sales pitch? Like how did you brand that?
Well, we branded it pretty blatantly. I don't think I've ever told you this before, but we actually went to a lot of trade shows, and I was shut down by a lot of, I remember the Safeway buyer in Calgary was just, she taught me some life lessons in a 20-minute meeting. But what we did is we went to a number of trade shows with the cat litter. There's the pet industry is huge, and there's big trade shows throughout the country, and we engaged people, showed them the product, and asked them if they would buy it if it was in big box retail. And I think by the time it was done, this is some guerrilla marketing. We had well over 4,000 signatures at a stack like this.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I leveraged that as a sales tool. I remember bringing it back to the lady at Safeway and surprising her with it.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. So you're, first of all, you start your career off with high hopes. You feel like you've been humbled a bit. Mm-hmm. You're exposed to different markets, understanding that there's definitely some appeal to certain products in certain markets. Mm-hmm. So then that leads to the next part of your journey. So you understand big markets now, you understand how important it is to have people. So you decided I should then start something in northern Saskatchewan. So where did you go? So let's get into that a little bit. So you are now dealing with Vancouver, Toronto, big product markets, and now you decide to hang up your hat in northern Saskatchewan. What was that all about?
Yeah, so this sort of happened by a twist of fate. It was serendipitous. I'm a big patriot of Saskatchewan. And I have been for a long, long time. I think the people here are amazing, and our province is great and sometimes undervalued outside of it. But we were hearing whispers at the time of this place up north that was absolutely incredible. Even in the wintertime, there was curling, there was tobogganing, all kinds of outdoor activities. And some friends invited us to join them one weekend up there. And it was Elkridge Resort. It was probably about a year and a half after the big lodge was built out there.
Okay.
And I remember going up there and just being absolutely awestruck, and feeling a sense of patriotism. Like, this is incredible. This is an amazing way to showcase our province. So I guess the twist of fate came shortly after. I think a couple days after our stay. It was still hot in my veins. I seen a job posting. They were advertising for a head of marketing, and they were requesting applicants and for tenders from marketing firms. So I ended up convincing my wife to let me take a run at it, and I was very passionate about getting the job. And I think there was around 30 applicants in a number of marketing firms, and I was lucky enough to be the last one standing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that sales pitch to your wife. Hey. So right now traveling Vancouver, how about we drive 3 hours north and go where nobody else is? We're going to just take a quick break for some commercials, and then we're going to get right back with Brandon Moore at Black Dog Republic and talk a bit about your journey at Elkridge, and then see where you're going now. Back with Brandon Moore from Black Dog Republic. Just kind of got into his story about moving from a business that was focused in the big markets like Toronto and Vancouver. Now you're in Elkridge, Saskatchewan. So how did that, you've got the job now, you've convinced them, you've gone through the process. What did you do there? Mm-hmm.
So we got the job, without getting into too many details. When the big lodge was built, there was a very reputable hotel management company that was hired to manage the hotel. And it was a big operation. In the summertime, the resort has anywhere from 140 to 160 people on staff. Mm-hmm. So they came in, and I guess what wasn't fully realized at the time is hotels are managed very differently than resorts. And not only that, Elkridge Resort was a very big entrepreneurial endeavor, and the company that was managing it like a hotel, and it just wasn't working. So that's why that job posting popped up. So I was hired to basically take over their department, and it was a big learning lesson for me because I had never been a hotelier before. Yeah. I was formally trained in marketing, but not hotel marketing, resort marketing. Mm-hmm. But we made some big moves. The CEO really did an amazing job empowering me. They unleashed a pretty big budget at my disposal. And within, I would say, a year-ish to 14 months, we were experiencing year-over-year growth as high as 140, 150%.
That's incredible.
Some months. Yes, so that opened up a lot of doors for me as well. So my time there, I guess my role progressed while I was there.
Well, it's not just a resort. Like, I mean, we know it now, right? That it's not just a resort. But at that time, I think lots of people just kind of figured it was a hotel and a quiet place, right? But that actually isn't its bread and butter, which is probably leading to the next part of your journey, right?
Exactly, yeah. So the resort, it has a lot of Fawcett's departments. You know, there's a 27-hole championship golf course, there's multiple restaurants, spa, huge conference business, and then there's sort of the tourism marketing side. But many people don't realize this. Elk Ridge Resort is a 600-acre parcel of land, and a great brunt, or I should say the lion's share of profit that Elk Ridge Resort realizes is through real estate. So it has, I believe, 4 sort of sub-communities within it now. It actually was just designated as a hamlet. And if, you know, Arnie's vision is realized, it will take some time. I'm sure one day Elk Ridge Resort will have a mayor.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we were on the cusp of launching our next property development, and the CEO had flown in these 2 bigwigs, really intelligent, competent guys. One came from Vancouver, and his claim to fame was having over $1 billion in sort of resort property sales under his belt. He did a lot of work in the Whistler region, Vancouver, Banff.
Hard sell.
Yeah. So he brought one of his colleagues who ran a big marketing firm. They sort of worked hand in hand, and we had these big roundtable discussions for a weekend about, you know, what we were going to do, what the strategy would be like, what would be palatable to the market. And after it was all said and done, I remember it was late Sunday evening. We were walking out of the lodge, and I was walking with the CEO. And you know, sometimes, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but sometimes, you know, someone tells you what they do, and there's this mystique around it. You've never seen anything like it. But when you see someone do something that you've never seen, it demystifies it. So I remember walking out of the resort with the CEO and just taking a leap of faith, sticking my neck out, I guess. And I remember just saying, you know, I can do what these guys can do. And the CEO wasn't exactly ready to just throw me in the hot seat, but it started 3 months of very intense, in-depth conversation, and by the end of the 3 months, the real estate department was mine, and I was charged with coming up with this new community concept and taking it to market.
And that was the cottages?
Yes, the cottages.
Okay.
So I'm sure a lot of people in Saskatchewan have stayed in the cottages by now, but we came up with a community concept called the Cottages at Elk Ridge, and it consisted of 39 freestanding cottages. Some of them backed the golf course. When it was all said and done, they averaged around $402,000 each. But it was anticipated that it would take around 2 years to sell this community out, and it ended up taking 38 days.
Which is a record, if I believe, or at least it was definitely noted as a big deal.
Yeah, you know, we made a splash. I think everyone was quite shocked. It made a lot of regional news outlets. It also even made the Financial Post. So it was the fastest selling recreational property development in Saskatchewan's history.
So definitely you were demystified by that, because that's going back to the being naive again, like you're just willing to try it.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think most people can relate to seeing something happen and think it's easier. That's probably YouTube's claim to fame with and why it took me 3 days to tile a shower. 3.5-minute video. I'm like, I got this. 3 days later, I'm crying in my closet thinking I'm a failure. So you have some incredible success in your first 2 gigs, though it wasn't overnight, but you definitely learned a lot. That brings you now to Black Dog Republic. So I know a bit about the business, but it didn't necessarily start, the vision didn't start exactly where it is right now. So why don't you just give us a quick snippet of what Black Dog Republic was when you first thought, where it's going, and then I want to talk a little bit more about, like you said, a republic empowers your community, and I know that's a big deal for you, so I really want to touch base on that. So why don't you just tell us where the idea of Black Dog, what it was originally going to be, how that's kind of morphed, and then we'll go into the community stuff.
Yeah, so after wrapping up the cottages at Elk Ridge, I knew I was passionate about real estate. My wife and I had made quite a few crazy moves just personally previous to the cottages. I just never considered it a career, and you know, I was doing marketing consulting. I had a number of other companies I was working with. Elkridge was my primary client, and I just decided to hyper focus everything that we were doing into real estate. And I looked around various marketplaces, and I found these sort of niche marketing firms that specialized in real estate. And I looked around Saskatchewan, and there was nothing like it. I don't know how you feel about Saskatoon and Saskatchewan's future, but I really think that the skyline's going to change in our city. So I talked to a number of industry stakeholders within Saskatoon, talked to them about, you know, the concept that I'd come up with, and asked them, you know, is this a viable business in this community? Is there a need for this? And I heard a resounding yes. So from Elk Ridge, Black Dog Republic was born. And initially we started as thinking we were primarily a full-service marketing firm for builders and developers.
Yeah.
And realtor services would be a subset, sort of direct sales would be a subset of our service offering. But what we found, and we have, it's been a journey, we have quite a few clients now, but what we found is, as we help grow a builder's business, naturally we're helping people buy and sell in the resale market so that they can build new or move into one of the community concepts that we're launching. And it's something that we love, actually. It's a lot of fun. It's a lucrative source of revenue for the business. So we decided a little over a year ago that we were going to take the resale market very serious and launch the brand into the Saskatoon and area region. So that's a big focus that we have right now.
Yeah, that's kind of the unique, not unique, it's actually a common story with most businesses, is you start in one area and you kind of just morph wherever the water kind of takes you, right?
Yes, absolutely. But I think one thing that's dangerous, and I struggle with this at times too as an entrepreneur, especially when, you know, you're trying to get your revenue to a point where you're not staring at the ceiling every night wondering how you're going to make it. But, you know, one common mistake, I think, is you can chase various sources of revenue, and that's dangerous as well, because you can lose your core focus.
Which, I mean, brings me exactly where I want to go. So a Republic empowers your community, and one of the coolest stories, I think, of Black Dog Republic is the fact that you have different colored signs. And there's a reason why you have those different colored signs. So why don't you tell us where that came from and why? Like, is it because of how you... Tell us a bit about the signs first.
Okay, for sure. So we knew that when we created the company, that a big point of differentiation, a big part of our culture would be how we gave back to the community. Actually, I sat down with Jason Yoshiman, who's the head of the Real Estate Association here in Saskatoon, and he gave me some great advice. I asked him, you know, well, we're going to be a licensed brokerage right away. Can you give me some advice? You're dealing with brokers all the time. What are common mistakes that they are making? And he surprised me. I thought he was going to tell me, you know, some kind of infraction that everyone made under the Real Estate Act. And one thing that he said was, you know, one thing that not many people are doing is creating a culture within their brokerage, within their company, that's attracting the right people. And that was important to me. And it was already something we were trying to do. I just never thought of it that way. So the signs evolved. I have more of an affinity for helping marginalized youth, at-risk youth. But I realized, and some of my smart colleagues within the office realized, there's a lot more needs than just that in the community. So we created these really vibrant signs. They really stick out, 4 colors, and we identified 4 needs, real needs within the community, from mental health to physical health, to at-risk youth. And we created these signs, and basically what we've done is we've allowed homeowners to choose which color of sign they put on their front yard. And what we do is we take a significant portion of the sales proceeds from selling their home, and we give it to an organization meeting those needs within the community.
Which is incredible. There's not a lot of people doing that. But where does that come from? Because that's not just, I know enough about your business that it was more than just the business plan. It's from who you are. So why do you care about the community so much?
Yeah. How do I put this? I heard a saying from a very wise man a while ago, but he said it was something like, your purpose usually lies with what burdens you. And I grew up in a single parent home. I've got 2 older brothers, and God bless my mom. I don't know how she did it, but we were 3 crazy boys, and there was a lot of chaos and uncertainty. You have to sort of imagine, your mother's working full time to put food on the table. And I just remember some really sort of chaotic seasons in life. And I guess I can tell you one story. When I was about 12, my mother got out of a bad relationship, and it was a situation where, pack your bags, we're leaving sort of situation. And we ended up in a small town within Saskatchewan, and it was very arbitrary how we got there. It was a small community called Birch Hills. And we found this old farmhouse that couldn't have been lived in for at least 2 years. And we just didn't have much at the time. It was a very uncertain, dark period. And the house was infested with mice. We spent, I think, at least 2 days killing mice and bleaching out the cistern and cabinets. And but I guess this was one of a few impactful moments in my childhood. But there was some neighbors 2 kilometers down. Their names were Wanda and Ed. Just two amazing people that were farmers just down the road that just did so much for for my mother and us. There was even a local church organization that paid us a visit and brought us food and welcomed us to the community. And I think that's what sets us apart here in Saskatchewan. And that's important to me is our sense of patriotism. There's a real, even though we're growing, there's a real sense of community within a big city such as Saskatoon. And I guess, for me, I think it's important as an entrepreneur, not just that, for anything clichély successful, a doctor or lawyer, or even a frontline worker, a plumber. I think it's important to give back to your community, no matter how successful you are.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just us doing what we can as an entrepreneur to give back.
And I think part of the success within our province is that we have people and businesses exactly like you that have a heart for the community and are willing to give back out of their pockets. Thanks so much, Brandon.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you being our guest today.